Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Leighton Cassette Podcast. Today, I will be covering the neon nipple-coated piece of shit, Batman and Robin. This movie effectively killed the franchise for 8 years, and superhero movies in general for a few years. Blade did come out the very next year in 1998, but it wasn't until X-Men came out in 2000 that comic book movies really bounced back. Joel Schumacher returned to direct, and he was told to make the movie, quote, more toy-etic. Akiva Goldsman also returned to pen the screenplay. Schumacher said that planning for the movie started in August '95, barely a month after the release of Batman Forever. Val Kilmer has said that he agreed to do another one after Batman Forever, but they never called him. Schumacher, on the other hand, has said that Val turned it down. It has been said that Val was difficult to deal with on set, and he did not get along with Schumacher. Batman/Bruce Wayne was recast as George Clooney, who was also at the height of his popularity due to the show ER. Since he was shooting ER simultaneously with Batman and Robin, they had to shoot around his schedule, shooting Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. They tried not to schedule him on Friday since ER was typically shot Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So he worked for 7 days a week for the duration of the shoot. Chris O'Donnell returned as Robin. Arnold Schwarzenegger was cast as Mr. Freeze. Arnold commanded a massive payday of $25 million and also received top billing, bookending the series with the main villains commanding top billing and massive paydays over the Batman actors. His makeup took 6 hours a day to apply. Uma Thurman was cast as Poison Ivy, and Alicia Silverstone was cast as Batgirl, whose origin was changed from being Commissioner Gordon's daughter to Alfred's niece. Now for the nipples. Schumacher has said that the inspiration for the costumes were from perfect Greek statues with anatomically correct bodies, and it never occurred to him to not put nipples on the Batsuit because they were anatomically correct. The codpieces were also a subject of discussion because they were very noticeable. The Batmobile was also redesigned with a more elongated design and an open cockpit, with red lights on the front and blue lights on the back and sides. Schumacher and Clooney have both apologized for the film. Clooney actually keeps a picture of himself as Batman in his office to remind himself of what can happen if you take a role for fame or money. O'Donnell said he felt he was making a toy commercial as opposed to a movie, and some of the actors have said that Schumacher would say into a bullhorn, "Remember, we're making a cartoon," before the takes. The soundtrack was again a hit with the Smashing Pumpkins song, "The End is the Beginning is the End," that won a Grammy for Best Hard Rock Performance. Toy companies were involved in pre-production and even helped design some of the vehicles. Warner Brothers spent about $15 million marketing the movie in addition to its $125 million budget. Batman and Robin was released on June 20th, 1997, earning around $43 million in its opening weekend, making it the third highest opening weekend of 1997. However, it declined more than 60% in its second weekend. Batman and Robin grossed $238.2 million worldwide, making more than half of that, $130 million, overseas. Now to get into the movie. We start with more 3D-looking opening credits. We open the movie with Batman and Robin preparing to go out, and we get crotch and ass shots of their costume for reasons. Another joke to start Batman and Robin. Robin says he wants a car because, quote, chicks dig the car. Batman says this is why Superman works alone. And I'm thinking because he has a sidekick who wants a car? The reason for mentioning Superman here could have been twofold, for that side-splitting joke, and also because around this time Kevin Smith, hockey jersey and jort enthusiast, who's also famous for the Clerks and Jay and Silent Bob movie, was working on a script for a movie called Superman Lives around this time that had Tim Burton directing and Nicolas Cage playing the Man of Steel. Batman takes off in his car and Robin on his bike. Apparently, chicks don't dig bikes in this Gotham. We get a lingering shot of Alfred, who looks quite constipated. At the Gotham City Museum of Art, Mr. Freeze has frozen the security guards and most everything in the museum. He then says in this universe there is one absolute: everything freezes. And if he is talking about the franchise after this movie, he is right. Otherwise, I have no idea what the fuck he is talking about. Don't think it freezes much in the Bahamas, but whatever. Batman confronts him while Robin crashes through the door on his motorcycle, leaving a bat-like hole in the door. While battling Freeze's hockey team from hell, as Robin calls them, they fall down and clap their feet together, and blades come out the bottom of their boots to make ice skates. Now this is very forward thinking on their part, because they have never faced this villain before and would have no reason whatsoever to have those skates. They battle Freeze and his goons because Freeze is trying to steal a diamond. However, in the melee, Batman and Freeze end up in a rocket that shoots out of the back of Freeze's car. Mr. Freeze then freezes Batman's hands to the rocket and says that at 30,000 feet he will freeze. And then Freeze opens the door and plummets back to Gotham, but don't worry, he has wings, so he kind of glides back down. Robin then enters as he grabbed a hold of the rocket before it launched, and with another bat shark repellent-esque gadget, shoots a laser out and frees Batman's hands. Batman now carries bombs all of a sudden, and sets one of them to blow up the rocket. They air surf on doors back down toward the city, which is complete gimmick infringement on the Silver Surfer. It's during this that Robin also yells "Cowabunga," ripping off the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They get back down to the ground and they chase Freeze, and then Freeze turns and freezes Robin and takes the diamond that Robin had acquired in the scuffle. Freeze tells Batman he has 11 minutes to thaw him, and then Freeze takes off. Batman puts Robin in some water and uses his own bat laser to thaw him. We then go to South America and meet Pamela Isley, who is complaining that Dr. Woodrow always takes her research. She then sneaks into Woodrow's office and we see Dr. Woodrow meeting with the United Nations. Very unoriginal. He then pumps a serial killer full of venom and steroids to make a super soldier Bane. He intends to sell Bane. Bane goes from a skinny small man to being so huge and bulky it would make Brock Lesnar blush. Woodrow spots Isley and whisks her away and asks her to join him. She refuses and he kills her, pushing her over and dumping all her chemicals and toxins on her. Back at the Batcave, we see security cam footage of how Victor Freeze became Mr. Freeze. His wife contracted a rare disease and he placed her in a cryogenic sleep until he could find a cure, but he fell into liquid that is more than 50 below. Bruce somehow has schematics of his suit and discovers he uses diamonds to power it, and he decides to set a trap for Mr. Freeze. We see tension between the dynamic duo. Bruce says that Dick is impulsive, and Dick says Batman or Bruce Wayne is actually pig-headed and stubborn. And after this, Alfred has a heart-to-heart with Bruce about trust and family. Bruce then remembers Alfred helping him up after he fell down the hall as a young child. Back to Isley, she emerges from the ground and says her blood's been replaced with aloe and all other types of horse shit. She kisses Dr. Woodrow and says she has venom in her lips, and this kills him. The kiss kills him. She burns down the lab and takes Bane with her to Gotham. At Freeze's hideout, he puffs on a cigar, and his assistant, played by Vivica A. Fox, wants to heat up his icicle with her hot chocolate, but he refuses as he is still in love with his wife. After Vivica A. Fuckme leaves the scene, we see all his thugs are bundled up, but she has lingerie on and doesn't seem cold at all, so whatever. Freeze then goes and sees his wife, who is in a tube full of water behind a trap door in the back room. He vows they will be together again soon. At Wayne Manor the next morning, Alfred's niece shows up to visit. Despite being from England, she has absolutely no accent whatsoever. Bruce invites Barbara to stay with them for a while, and we see Alfred trying to find his brother Wilfred later on, who is in India. Alfred, Wilfred, get it? Barbara then sneaks out and takes one of Dick's bikes with her, or Bruce's, doesn't really say whose it is. Pamela and Bane arrive in Gotham, and they go to the observatory, where at the observatory Bruce donates a telescope. We get another Gossip Gertie cameo from Elizabeth Kane, who asks Bruce if he will marry his girlfriend Julie, played by Elle Macpherson. Isley then confronts Bruce to gives him a bill to help save the planet, which he rejects because it would kill millions of people. Mr. Freeze watches his wedding video and freezes the head thug who talked during it. His thug brought him a paper of a Bruce Wayne charity event, which is the trap that it has set for Mr. Freeze. We go to the event and see Batman and Robin on stage. Yes, that's right. Batman and Robin making a public appearance at a charity event. We are a long way from Batman 89 at this point. Then people start bidding on prostitutes, I guess, to give them the diamond. The crowd then turns to watch someone in a monkey costume dance for whatever reason. They just turn and start watching. It is very, very strange. Now, after she takes the costume off, it is revealed to be Poison Ivy, and she blows some kind of magic dust to make Batman and Robin fall in love with her. They then bid on her along with the crowd. Batman and Robin bid in the millions, and Batman even pulls out a credit card that has his name on it and that has Batman on it and the Bat logo, and its expiration date, forever. Another hilarious fucking joke. Just then, Mr. Freeze breaks in and steals the diamond necklace. Well, more so, Ivy just lets him have it. Batman and Robin chase after Freeze. Batman eventually catches him, but not before Mr. Freeze freezes the Batmobile. During the chase, Batman powers down Robin's bike when he refuses an order to pull back because Batman didn't think he could make the jump from the ginormous Greek statue across to another rooftop. After they get back, they argue for a while, but then Bruce seeks Alfred's counsel and asks him if he really is stubborn. Dick catches Barbara sneaking his bike back in as this is going on, and says she just took it for a spin. At Arkham Asylum, Mr. Freeze is placed in his cell with a, quote, zone for coldness, allowing him to survive. One of the guards is played by Jesse Ventura, who is friends with Arnold as they appeared in the movie Predator together. Poison Ivy and Bane break into one of the Glow Gang's hideouts, and Bane dispatches of them, and they take over the hideout as their own. She then hatches a plan to break Freeze out of Arkham. Back at Wayne Manor, Bruce rejects Julie's marriage proposal, fearing for her safety. And in this scene, Bruce actually has a vision of Ivy, and he's thinking about Ivy a little bit while he's with Julie. Even apparently calling her Ivy, but we never hear it. Julie just says that Bruce called her Ivy, but the words never came out of his mouth, so I don't know. But the point is, Bruce and Dick are still both smitten with Ivy. Dick then catches Barbara taking another bike out again, and Dick follows Barbara to an illegal street motorcycle race, run by Coolio, who must have gotten out of the gangster's paradise in just enough time to make this cameo. During the race, a rival tries to take out Barbara, but she is saved by Dick. Then after they get back to Wayne Manor, Barbara reveals that she got kicked out of Oxford for racing. She also reveals that she is here to take Alfred away from his life as a butler because he is sick. However, after she exits the scene, Bruce enters and reveals to Dick that he knows Alfred is dying, even though Alfred has never said anything. Which makes you wonder why he was still having Alfred open doors and why he didn't try and lighten his load, but whatever, still gotta have his ass waited on. Poison Ivy shows up at Arkham to bust Freeze out. She takes out the guards by posing as a sister, kissing them, which ends up killing them. Bane retrieves Freeze's suit from the criminal lockup, and it's there we also see the Riddler and Two-Face costumes from the previous movie. Freeze creates an exit right before more guards come to stop them, freezing the pipes and making a hole when they jump into, I don't know if it's an ocean or whatever, but Freeze's costume must be waterproof, so they fall quite a ways. Bruce tells Alfred that he knows he is sick, and asks Alfred if he has any regrets about his life at Wayne Manor, to which Alfred replies never, only that he cannot join Bruce out in the streets in his pursuit of justice. Batman and Robin meet Gordon at Freeze's hideout, where they find out Poison Ivy is evil by seeing security cam footage of her and Bane busting Freeze out of Arkham. She lures Batman and Robin away with her love dust, so Freeze can get the diamonds to power up his suit and take out the cops. Ivy flirts with Robin some more, while Bane takes on Batman, and eventually, as Robin is about to kiss Ivy, Batman says, "I bet her lips are poison," and then a small fight breaks out between the two, and then Batman pushes Robin into a vat of ice cream. Some more visual comedy for us. Though it's hot, so it's all melted. Back at her hideout, Poison Ivy tells Freeze Batman deactivated his wife. Ivy gives Freeze her necklace to prove that Batman unplugged her, but in reality, it was Ivy that unplugged her. They then plan to freeze Gotham and then the world and have her plans overrun the globe after. Back at Wayne Manor, Alfred is bedridden with McGregor syndrome. A doctor tells them that all they can do is make him comfortable. Alfred gives Barbara a CD and tells her to find Wilfred and not to open it. Yeah, right. Like she's gonna listen to that. At the dedication of the telescope at the observatory, Pamela uses her dust to get the keys for the bat signal from Gordon. Her and Bane then go to the top of police headquarters, grab the bat signal, and take it with them back to their hideout so they can replace it with a Robin signal. Barbara tries to break into the CD. All her password attempts fail. Bruce and Alfred share a moment when they tell each other they love each other. Now, this scene could have had some gravity had it been in a better movie, had maybe it been Kilmer or Keaton, but, well, this is what we got. Barbara then successfully hacks into the CD by guessing the password, Peg, which was Alfred's nickname for his sister, which early on in the movie Barbara said she had never heard before, despite her parents died 5 years ago in a car crash, so say she's 19, 20 in this, even 18. She would have been maybe 13, 14 when they died, so I have a hard time believing she never heard this nickname, but whatever. Robin heads to see Ivy when he sees the Robin signal. Bruce pleads with Dick to trust him and that Ivy is trying to kill him. While this is going on, Freeze and Bane break into the observatory and freeze two engineers as they plan to use the telescope to freeze the city. Barbara finds her way into the Batcave where a pre-recorded message from Alfred tells her that he made something in her size. And to be fair to the beginning montage of the movie, we do get crotch and ass shots of Batgirl's costume as well as she suits up. Now this is strange because you would think that Alfred would want to protect his niece and not have her in harm's way, especially knowing, or at least thinking, that she has absolutely no experience whatsoever. How does he know she's not going to get herself killed out there? She flips Dick over when he spooks her when she sneaks the bike back in. I mean, Alfred saw Dick do karate laundry, so he knew that Dick could, beat the shit out of some laundry at least. But yeah, it's fucking stupid. Not the fact of having Batgirl in the movie, just the fact that Alfred has no idea, and you wouldn't think he'd want his niece out there, but we gotta move it along, and we need to get all this campy jokes and shit in here. At Ivy's hideout, she tells Robin of Freeze's plan to freeze the city. They then kiss, and she tells him time to die. And then he rips off rubber lips. Rubber lips. Where do you get those made? Why would you make those? it's another thing that's just fucking stupid. The plants attack and tie up Robin, and then Batman, who jumps out of the shadows. Batgirl then enters through the skylight and takes out Poison Ivy after a brief fight. Batman and Robin manage to get free, and they make jokes when Barbara reveals, that it's her who's Batgirl, and we get a little, well, that's not very PC joke from Batman. What about Batperson or Batwoman? Because, we gotta indoctrinate PC on kids. And Batman and Robin and Batgirl flee to take out Freeze, but not before a costume change. We need to sell those fucking toys. Freeze then freezes the city with a telescope, and as we see the three heroes approaching in new suits and on new vehicles. Toys. Freeze orders Bane to kill Robin and Batgirl, but leave Batman for him. They use heaters to thaw the engineers, and it's established early on in the movie that you have 11 minutes to thaw a person after they've been frozen. It has definitely been well over 11 minutes that these fuckers have been frozen. They should be dead. But fuck it. It's a kids' movie, so we gotta bring it back. Bring them back. No one dies. They plan to use satellites to bounce the sunlight from the Congo to thaw the city. Robin and Batgirl are attacked by Bane after they fall, and they manage to grapple up, and Bane grabs them, and he's choking them against the wall, but they manage to kick the tube from the back of his head that's circulating the venom through him, and right then and there he shrinks back down to a normal size. Batman eventually fights off Freeze and starts to thaw the city. Freeze then ignites bombs Bane placed around the observatory when they first got there. Batman manages to save the engineers, but the telescope falls and is destroyed. Barbara uses the satellites to thaw the city directly. Not sure how, but they do. Batman then shows an incapacitated Freeze a video of Ivy admitting to killing his wife. Batman tells Freeze that he saved her and placed her back in stasis. He asks Freeze to help him cure McGregor Syndrome Stage 1. Freeze then gives him 2 tubes of medicine and tells him to call me in the morning. Freeze and Ivy are revealed to be cellmates at Arkham, and Freeze tells her he's going to make her life a living hell. The next morning, Alfred wakes up seemingly cured. The three have a handshake as Alfred proclaims they are going to need a bigger cave. The three of them run toward the screen in their suits with the bat signal behind them, much in the way of the end of Batman Forever. And they run towards the screen, and that is the last image that closes the movie and the franchise. Some positives. The storyline of Alfred dying could have been more effective, as I said earlier, if it had been in a better movie or if it was Keaton or Kilmer. Maybe. George Clooney could have been a more effective Batman if he was in a better movie and if he tweaked a couple of things. The negatives, so much. The goofy 60s-esque tone, the so many ice puns, the rehashed Batman and Robin tension. There was basically no growth between Batman and Robin from Batman Forever to this movie. I really don't see any growth whatsoever, no development. The Batmobile looks ridiculous. The Batsuit looks terrible. It's all blue. The lackluster finale, the terrible overall look of the movie, and the very dated and shitty CGI. And back to my point about Clooney, he is the only actor that didn't bother to change his voice between Batman and Bruce Wayne. Kilmer and Keaton spoke in a lower register, and in the future, we did get Bale's growl, "Where's the trigger?" And we did. When Affleck played Batman, he did use a voice modulator, which is probably the best option anyway, but this predates those last two. But he didn't bother to change his voice at all. My overall thoughts is this is an awful movie, and it has no redeeming qualities. I've been doing stars on movies. I think I'm going to change it up and do thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs in the middle, and this is 2 thumbs way, way down. May God have mercy on its soul. It's not even worth checking out. Not at all. A sequel was planned because the studio was impressed with the dailies. Schumacher was set to direct again and have Clooney, O'Donnell, and Silverstone all reprise their roles, with the Scarecrow as the main villain and Harley Quinn written as the Joker's daughter. It was kind of rumored that the Harley Quinn would be Courtney Love. Anybody who knows Courtney Love knows she's up and down all around. She was in an up period at this point, thanks to her role in The People vs. Larry Flint. And it also was hoped that Nicholson would reprise his role as the Joker, despite him dying in the first one. I think somewhere I read that Batman was going to have hallucinations or visions of him from Scarecrow's fear toxin. However, with the poor reception, Clooney said he would never play Batman again, and the movie was eventually canceled. The Batman franchise would remain dormant until 2005's Batman Begins. Now, the franchise overall, the first two and the last two are obviously drastically different movies. The first one is a more serious take with some moments of campiness only because of time. It was the 80s and the Prince music. And the second was even darker with what I assume was unintentional camp with the Penguin Army and some of that silliness. Batman Forever took it way over the top with the performances. Carrey, kind of forgivable considering that was his shtick at the time, but Tommy Lee Jones was just awful. And once again, fucking neon. Batman and Robin was just a big steaming pile of shit. But because of the over-the-top silliness, it kind of was responsible for Chris Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. My ranking for the movies is in the order that they were released. Batman 89, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. I do have nostalgia for all these movies, even Batman and Robin in certain ways. Maybe the time, being a kid, but not necessarily the movie itself. Well, that does it for the first set of Batman movies, and I may visit Nolan's trilogy in the future, even though it does take place out of the VHS cassette era. Now, for my next movies, I'll be tackling a franchise that only has 2 movies in it, and it originated from video games. Now, the franchise has been back in the news lately with a new game and a reboot, with James Wan producing Mortal Kombat. Thank you for listening to the Leighton Cassette Podcast, and I hope you join me next time when I tackle Mortal Kombat.